Question from ASIC, out of the blue. Nothing comes up before this. Do you know a person by the name of Charles Provini? Very helpfully, the ASIC investigator spells it for him. P-R-O-V-I-N-I. Answer, yes. Is he a member of that committee with Eugene Liu and Sean Richard? Yes. Charles Provini and Peter Smith. He goes on to, it goes on, I won't go through it all, but they go back to Provini. Question, and was Mr. Provini at some stage the president of a group called Paradigm? I'll interpose here. Paradigm is a hedge fund registered in New York. Privilege. Sean Richard now realises he starts to use the word privilege, which means it can't be used against him in a criminal prosecution. Privilege, yes. Was that a hedge fund operating out of New York? Sean Richard says privilege. Whenever he says privilege, they can't use it, remember, in a criminal trial. Privilege, yes. Is it the case that Mr. Provini, very polite for ASIC to call him Mr. Provini, is no longer involved with Paradigm as you understand it? Answer, privilege, yes. No, Sean. Answer, untrue. Untrue. Mr. Hogan, one of the ASIC investigators, you said that Mr. Charles Provini was introduced to you by another fund manager. Who was that fund manager? He then gives the name. They then ask an extraordinary question, which is, do you know that Charles Provini is involved with the Bidens? The Bidens? Who are the Bidens anyway? Sean Richard answers, quick as a flash, yes. I'll tell you who the Bidens are. It says it here. You should know this man, because according to Sean Richard, he made the decisions about where your money went in New York. And you should know him too, because there is a person who may be here, Cole Warren here. Cole's here. Cole Warren, who should be regarded as something of an Australian hero, I'm not overestimating this in this regard, has met Charles Provini. I'll explain the circumstances. Charles Provini, well credentialed. He's got an engineering degree from the US Naval Academy, University of Oklahoma. He's been involved in asset management. He's one of the oldest members of the New York Stock Exchange. How good's that? Goes on and on. He's been a leadership instructor at the US Naval Academy. This bloke can steer a ship. And he's a former Marine Corps officer. And he appears on the Today Show, Good Morning America, ABC News with Diane Sawyer, and of course Rupert Murdoch's station, Fox, and friends, discussing financial markets and more recently the solar industry. We'll come to that in a minute. Next one, John, please. There he is, Chuck Provini. We were going to try and play actually an excerpt of Chuck talking. He's very persuasive, believe me. Next one, John. He's now involved in this. Anyway, we right? Okay. Well, we won't come to that yet. Okay, Biden's. When they said, I'll give you this question now. The question was that a hedge fund operating out of New York? Privilege, yes. Question, was that acquired by the Bidens? Answer, privilege, yes. Most people would say, Biden who? Who's Biden? He knew. Sean Richard knew straight away who Bidens were. Who are they? They are the brother and the son of the Vice President of the United States. I just want to explain how it appears this operation worked in New York. Remember I said previously there were 3 stages to this crime? There was the setup under the Australian jurisdiction. Thank you very much Clarissa Villavert for being able to advise ASF how to do that. Then there was the international hedge fund, almost alphabet soup of acronyms, names, an extremely complex interlocking hedge funds of 25 hedge funds. Who could pursue that? Well, there was one person in Australia who tried to pursue it. Wasn't in APRA, certainly wasn't in ASIC, it was Cole Warren, a financial advisor. The most reviled group to come out of this whole thing are the financial advisors. Cole's too modest to talk about it, so I'll talk about it for him. Colin Warren in 2008 and certainly into 2009 began to become concerned about the security of the underlying investments. So he questioned Sean Richard about it, as he had a responsibility to. And Sean Richard was saying, look, they're okay, they're okay. Not good enough for Colin. This is an age of sceptics. He said, I want to speak to someone who actually knows about the investments. Well, that's in New York. So Colin, of his own volition, flew to Canada and then sent a message back to Richard to say, hey, I'm in North America, you arrange for me a meeting with someone who knows where these investments are. He had 2 meetings on Wall Street. The second one was in the New York Yacht Club. Remember the New York Yacht Club? Sometimes in the movies. Don't know what Cole thought of it, I'm impressed. And who did he meet? Charles Provini. 2 bits of evidence, circumstantial, yes, but 2 bits of evidence. The evidence of Sean Richard is a liar, we know. Okay, we take that with caution. Colin Warren's not a liar. He met him because Sean Richard arranged the meeting with him. And Charles Provini gave to Colin Warren 6 contracts, which were contracts between AAM, we suspect, and corporations in the United States under an arrangement which is quite legal in America, which we've talked about before, called an acronym PIPS. PIPES, PIPES. It's called Private Investment in Public Entities. It allows publicly listed companies in the US to privately borrow capital. It does not require those publicly listed entities to report those borrowings to the US regulatory authorities. The arrangement, and Richard in his evidence goes through this time and time again, was this, according to them. Hey, this is really safe because the security for this is the following. We lend them money and they undertake by contract to cover the repayment of that money in shares of that company at a price which is commensurate to the borrowing. So, you lend them 50 million. The contract will say something like, I presume, this will be repaid. If it cannot be repaid in cash, it will be repaid in equities at the level and value of 50 million at the time of the call. That's a quite legal arrangement in the US. Who did it? Charles Provini. I want to ask this question. Why is it that when ASIC gave its evidence, when Metcalfe was there to give his evidence, we didn't hear the name Charles Provini? Why is it, do you think? Do you reckon the US media might have been interested in Charles Provini? Hey, there's a parliamentary inquiry in Australia. A name has been mentioned, not only just in passing. This is a critical operator in this 3-part crime. The New York end of the crime was critical because that's where your money went and it hasn't come back. And I think Charles might know about that. So the US media hears, hey, Charles Provini. And the US media knew about Charles Provini and Michael Biden and his son, Joe Biden's son. They knew about that because there had been a very messy legal case over the purchase of Paradigm in 2008, which had been reported by the US media. Michael Biden is now involved in a simmering scandal because he was appointed to the board of a construction company in 2010. Hey, in 2011, they got a massive $1 billion contract to build houses in Iraq. People are saying, hold on a minute, Michael Biden's never had any background in construction. What's he doing on the... Oh, they got a contract. Don't you reckon it might have been an issue for the US media? And more importantly than that, don't you reckon it's an issue for the Australian Parliament to know the name of the investment advisor that was teeing up the contracts Colin Warren received from that man in the New York Yacht Club in 2009, just before the freezing of the company? He received the contracts. Pravini isn't some fringe player. Not a word, not one word before the Parliamentary Joint Committee. Don't you reckon that Paul Douglas might have been interested as a member? Well, who had an interest in this country in suppressing that? Next one, John.
Do you want to see the video?
Oh, is it up, is it?
Well, we can try.
Oh, Charles Pravini. Would you like to watch Charles? He's responsible for your money.
Accor is a company that has some very sophisticated technology that is particularly conducive to improving efficiencies, reducing costs in the solar industry. Our technology is an enabling technology. It enables different applications to be done better. We eliminate the cost of high temperature vacuum furnaces. What that means is, for one example, no matter how you make a solar cell, at some point in time you have to put a anti-reflective coating on it. Right now that anti-reflective coating is